In this lesson, we're going to be making a still life using objects instead of just shapes. Uh, Before you start this video, before you start this lesson, please make sure that you've watched all of the introductory lessons on the first slide or the second slide, as well as finish tracing and taping your paper. All right. If you have not gotten to this point yet, if you do not have this yet, please make sure you refer back to those videos and do those first. And then once you're done, come back here and then we can get started. All right. So when you are painting, there are different ways to paint, right? There's no one correct way. It's just whatever you end up feeling more comfortable doing. All right. So in this lesson, I'm going to be teaching you a specific method that starts with filling out as much of the painting as possible from the beginning, and then adding onto it in smaller pieces, in smaller layers on top. All right. So what that means is, here's my reference here, right? What I'm going to do in this step is I'm just going to take the base color or the base value. In this case, we're just using black and white. So the only colors that we're going to be mixing are black and white to make gray. But we are going to be having different values. And what values are is how dark or light something is relative to another part of your image. Okay, so for example, if we look at our reference, we have this area here, which is white, right? That is the lightest value. And then we also have this area here, which is a very, very dark gray and very close to black. That's going to be one of our darker values. So these two values are opposites, right, on the spectrum. But then you also have some values that are really close to each other. For example, this gray here, this medium gray here, right, is pretty close to this medium gray here, right? So the difficult part with painting these two things is making sure that they don't end up blending together, right? Or like being mistaken for each other. Okay, so for this layer, as I mentioned, we are going to be painting just the base value or base color onto our painting. All right, so my thought process is going to be, this is mostly a medium gray, right? So I'm going to mix a medium gray and then I'm going to paint it onto this area here. Okay, this is mostly a lighter gray, so I'm going to paint that onto here. This is mostly a darker gray, so I'm going to paint that onto here. All right, and so on and so on. Okay, so taking my brush, taking a bit of paint, I'm going to paint this medium gray into the whole fruit. Even though I can see there's some white here, right? I'm painting the whole fruit right now. Okay, so the great thing about paint is, unlike crayons, colored pencils, markers, and things like that, you can always paint on top of a previous layer, right? Once this is dry, I can put another color on top of it and you won't even see this color below it. So if you make a mistake, don't worry about it. It's not that big a deal, because once it's dry, you can always put more on top of it to cover it up. There are no erasers in painting because you can just color on top of it. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up this shape here. All right, this pear right here. Okay. And there you go. That's gonna be my first shape, or my first object. All right, so my goal at the end of this step is actually to fill up the entire paper with some color. It doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be the exact color, and it can have like differences in value. Like here, right, you have white versus medium gray, but I just have medium gray, right? So that's okay for this layer. All right, we're gonna fix it later. You just have to trust that. Like, it may not look perfect, it may not look beautiful, it may not look good right now, but that's okay. When it comes to painting, you need to trust the process, and you need to be patient until the very, very end. It's not gonna look good until you're like completely done. All right.